Okay, we're gonna record to the cloud. All right, so it is recording, just so you know. You probably don't need the recording, but for those who are not here or maybe attend virtually, they may want the recording. So I'm gonna record and I will most likely put it on our Moodle page for us, okay? So we're gonna jump in with test taking strategies. How many of you have taken tests in the past? Yeah, almost all of us have. I mean, if you came through the K-12 system, you for sure have had tests. How many of you enjoy taking tests? Yeah, very few of us wake up and say, woohoo, I get to take a test today, right? Well, let's just kind of brainstorm. What kind of tests have you had to take in your lifetime? Talk to me about the different types of tests. I'm going to do deer in the headlights if you don't volunteer. Does everybody know what that means? Yeah, well, basically, if I don't get one of these or someone doesn't want to pipe up, then I will take a stab at your name. And if I get your name right, you have to answer. And usually deer in the headlights means like, they're caught unaware and they're like, oh no, she's calling out to me. I just won't answer. I'll be silent. Then you know what happens? Then I come even closer and then I just hover like a vulture, making everybody uncomfortable. So the quickest way to get me off your case and moving on to somebody else is to answer. Go for it, Will. Go for a test.
I take a lot of tests at work. My boss constantly comes up and gives me pop quizzes.
Okay, so verbal ones or written? Okay.
Both.
Yep.
Both.
So like make sure you know how to do certain things or certain.
Mats and all that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, at work, there are a lot of different jobs where it's kind of an ongoing testing all the time.
Yeah.
On the spot, even worse than like pop quizzes.
Out of the blue, pop quiz.
Yeah, so for those kinds of tests, guess what? There is no thing, you have to have known it. It's almost like internalized. Okay, great. Anyone else want to share any type of test that you've had in your lifetime? Go for it. SJ, right? ST, sorry.
Final exams.
Oh yeah, they're a good time, aren't they? Yeah. What, let me say, which one do you hate least of the final exams? Which one was the least hateful for you?
English.
Okay, so out of your choices, I'm with you there. English wasn't bad for me, it was math. Ooh, I do not have good memories of my math exams in school. Or even in college, to be honest with you. All right, any other tests? So far, we've got academics, we've got a workplace one. Go for it.
A hands-on test in auto class.
Oh, yeah, okay. Like this part goes here, or you gotta do it this way type thing. That's almost similar to what Will may be mental, he just has to verbally do it, but that's kind of what they're doing there. It's like, hey, do you know how to do this type of thing? Okay, very interesting. Yeah, any other ones? Would you like to know one of the hardest tests I ever did? Ooh, that's a resounding, you betcha, bring it on. No, nobody cares, right? Guess what? You're gonna hear it next. One of the most difficult tests I ever had to prepare for, I was so stressed out, whatever, is I had to get a CDL. Anybody know what a CDL is? Couple, it's a commercial driver's license. I had to do it, and again, this is back in my youth. And you had to do a road test, but then the road test, driving wasn't the difficult part. You have to walk around the vehicle and then identify all these different parts, like spring something or other, and I can't even remember the names. All these different parts. That was so difficult. The way my brain works, that is so out of my comfort zone that it was not good. I mean, I had myself worked up. I did eventually pass it, which is good. The written test, no problem. Written stuff, boom, boom, boom. That booklet I could study, but it was the physical. So like for mechanics or any of those kinds of things, I would not do well in that class at all. This part goes here, or you have to do it a certain way. That is not a good thing for me. So one of the things we want to talk about is test. There's all different types of tests, but your brain also processes information all different ways for those tests. My guess is most of us, it's kind of the question that I asked ST is, were there some tests that were less horrible than others, right? So if you had a choice of a test, would you take something like a hands-on, or would you take a book test, or would you take something in the sciences, would you take something in English? For me, obviously, it was always English, because that ended up being my field I went into. We naturally gravitate to that which is less horrible for us, I guess. So one of the things we're gonna talk about today is in module 2, I want you to take a test strategies quiz. Now, in the book, if you have the book, it's on page, you know what, let's just take a minute and everybody, especially if you have your laptop, let's see, make sure you can access it. Go ahead and get to page number 636 in the electronic version. This is twofold. One, I'm going to talk about in a minute, but the other part of this is I just want to make sure you're able to access the book and don't have any issues. So let's go ahead. Remember, the link to the book is up at the top. And you had to register. You should have gotten an email from the company, right? Everybody did that, I'm hoping. We talked about that last time. But I'll give you a minute to kind of get up there. And if you haven't already got your little super secret password, go ahead and do that. I want to make sure everybody is not having any trouble accessing the book. Did anybody opt to buy a print book instead of the electronic version? Okay, good. So you all have the electronic version. So I'm gonna come around. I'm just gonna ask, do you have access? That's what I'm going for. I'll give you a minute. It looks like some people are still kind of getting in there. Well, I know that you don't have your computer, so I didn't even think about that. I will, if I can remember, I'll try to bring a print copy with me next time.
Okay.
For you. In fact, if you guys want, I will show you. It's at the top of the page. Do, 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 do. Well, maybe not. Do I not have the textbook link on our page? Maybe it's on the teacher level, just a minute.
It's under announcements.
There it is. Yep, right at the top. E-textbook college reading. Click into it. And then down at the bottom is the link right there, if you haven't already done that. Oh, and it's telling me I have to log in. What the French toast. Let's see if I can remember my password. That's always exciting. You should have originally gotten an email. You had to set up your password, that kind of a thing. And so what you're going to see is the shelf. And you'll see I have 3 books on mine. I don't know how many you'll have on yours. It'll be however many electronic books you have through access here through the college. So you may have other classes that have this link in it as well. But ours is the one that says College Reading Science and Strategies of Expert Readers. So all you do is you click into it. Come on, Grandma. There we go. We're going to read now. Yes, yes. And I think I told you before, if you don't want to, scroll or the twisting page of death all the time, just type in the number. I think it was 636. I'm not, yep, sounds like it. So one of the things I want you to do is a test taking kind of self-assessment, just to kind of make yourself aware. So it's a quiz in the book. And essentially you answer yes if you think, yeah, that's a characteristic of me. No, if it's not. Let's go ahead and let's just kind of talk through this. Go ahead and I'm going to talk through some of these things. Number 1, I never seem to have enough time to finish an exam. Raise your hand if you think that's you. You always run out of time with an exam. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Number 2, I answer all exam questions. I leave nothing blank. Is that you? How many of you have left blank answers on a test? Okay, I'm curious. Why do you leave it blank? It's not a test question. I'm just curious.
You know?
Because you don't know. Okay, great. So let me give you a tip in the college world. Never leave an answer blank. The reason is it's automatically wrong. It's a guaranteed wrong if you leave it blank. Right? So even if you answer something incorrectly and you get it wrong, you would have gotten it wrong anyways if you left it blank. So you've got nothing to lose by attempting an answer, no matter how silly it is. And you never know, maybe the instructor will take mercy and throw you half a credit for something, you never know. Right? Does that make sense? Here's the other reason you never want to leave anything blank on a test in the college world. What message are you sending to the instructor? It's more than I don't know. What do you think the instructor hears?
I don't care.
I don't care. It's not worth my time. That's not a message you want to send to your professor or instructor. You at least want to show effort because then they think you're trying. If you're not trying, then the instructor doesn't give you any kind of slack or mercy for other things. Okay? All right, number 3, I read the directions twice before I answer questions. How many of you do that one? Oh, I'm kind of curious. A couple of us. All right. Always read things twice. Here's a trick. Try to read it from back to front, because that will get it out. So read it the regular first time, stop, go backwards, and then read it again. Because your brain sees what it wants to see. So if you interrupt it, you're more likely to catch any words that you missed or didn't understand. Okay? All right. Multiple choice test. I select the first answer if it seems correct. Do you usually go for the first answer that you think is correct on multiple choice? Anybody? Wow. What do you do if you don't choose the first answer? Chick, what do you do? If you don't choose the first answer on multiple choice, how do you determine which answer you're going to choose? I'm sorry, you said it, but I didn't hear it. Okay, you guessed, but like, which one? You're going to guess the one you think is that correct first? Is that the one you're going for? Okay, okay. Anyone else? Do you have a different? Go for it, Will.
I just read all of them.
Hey, you read all of them, but then how do you choose? Okay, you say, oh, well, B sounds good. Is that the one you go for?
I read the answer and I determine in my head what sounds more correct to that answer.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
Here's a trick on multiple choice questions in the college arena. The word best. If the instructions tell you choose the best answer for this situation or choose the best answer, blah, 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 from these choices, right? A lot of times that means there's more than one correct one. So one will be better than another. You could easily have 2 correct answers, but if you don't choose the best one, you have a shot at getting it wrong. Here's another trick with multiple choice questions. If you're like Chick and you're like, oh, I don't know, I gotta guess. Here's what I want you to do. You read the question twice. Close your eyes and think of the answer in your head. Cover the answers. Don't look at the answers at all. Just look at the question. And if you can think of an answer in your head of what you think it might be, and it matches one of the choices, chances are that's your one. So it's kind of a way to eliminate some of the bad choices. All right. I always double check my answers. Does everybody go back on the test and double check their answers? Okay, yep, that's a strategy. Okay. Okay, number 7 is another trick. It's about grammar, and it helps you if you know grammar. If you don't know grammar, it won't help you as much. But questions are usually created by the instructor. The instructor uses proper grammar. So match certain things with the answers. Here's a good example. Match singular with singular. Plural with plural. Does that make sense? So if in the question it's phrasing things in a singular way, then you know you want to choose the singular answer or the answer that's phrased the singular way in grammar. All right. Oh, number 9. Oh, here we go. Number 8's a trick. Not a trick, it's a strategy. If I don't know, I avoid answers that use absolute words. Okay, you didn't know you were having a pop quiz today, but double snaps to anybody that can tell me what absolute words are. I don't expect you to know, but if you know, double snaps, go for it.
Like, this restaurant has the best mac and cheese in the world, or like overconfident.
You're really, really close. Absolute words are things like always, never. Very few things in life are always or never. So if you have an answer that has the word always in it or never in it, chances are it's not the correct answer. Avoid those. Again, that's just a strategy. Anybody change your answers on a test? Yeah. The big thing I can tell you on this is don't do that. Here's what science says about this. Your gut is usually right. So if you think it's A and you choose A, and then you go back and reread and you're like, I don't know if it's A or B, I'm gonna go with B, chances are it's not gonna be correct. Now, it's not 100%, it's not always whatever. But science shows that when you change an answer, you're more likely to get it wrong. Okay? So you want to be sure and go with your gut. Test strategy. Do the questions that you know the answers to first. Do those first. Save yourself. So the people that raise their hand, they run out of time. One of the reasons you run out of time is you're spending too much time on things you don't know. So in the college world, particularly, very rarely do they tell you the order you have to do your questions. So if you have a 20-question test, you can do them in any order as long as you get all 20 done by the time, right? So if you're rolling along and you read number 2 and you don't know the answer, skip it, come back to it, right? Don't sit there for 5 minutes thinking about it because now you're eating up time for other things. The other part of this is your brain has something like fight or flight. Whether you know it or not, it's kind of a leftover from the caveman days. And your body, when it comes into an unknown situation or what it views as a dangerous situation, it has the instinct of either fight or flight. So you either fight it or run away. A test is that situation for you. Most people do not enjoy tests. They don't look forward to taking a test. So their brain goes right into fight or flight mode. Couple of ways to avoid that is to do deep breathing. Get the brains from your chemical to your body, vice versa. And then when you are reading your stuff, you want to pause and give your brain time to think it through. So take deep breaths. Every time you get panicked, every time you have fight or flight, you want to take deep breaths, acclimate the chemicals to get them all aligned so that you can think better. All of your energy is going into your body to run away. So if you take a deep breath and wait, it will unblock some things in your brain. Okay, so after you take this, you can do this on your own. It gives you kind of some scoring issues, and it talks about them. No, yes, good habit. These are the things I just kind of talked you through at this time. So when you're preparing for a test, one of the big things that science has shown us is you want to prepare early, not cram for an exam. We've all heard the stories in college. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to people, they say, oh, I crammed all night for an exam. That's not the way your brain's, oh, somebody said, oh, sorry. That's not the way your brain prepares. Your brain is kind of like a sponge. How many of you have ever dumped a sponge in a bucket of water? Okay, you have a brand new or an old sponge that's been sitting out in the sun 100 years, right? You dump it in the bucket of water and then you pull it back out, right? It gets a little bit of water, but not a lot. If you take that same sponge and you just slowly immerse it, it absorbs a lot more water. So your brain is like that. If you're cramming for an exam, let's say the night before, and you say, oh, man, I studied for like 5 hours. Usually what I'll tell you is, wow, you probably wasted 4.5 of them. Because whether you know it or not, your brain tapped out. Okay? Your brain said, I'm done. Your brain doesn't tell you that, it just doesn't process as well. So a way to get around that is to prepare early, in other words, do smaller amounts over multiple times. If you absolutely can't do that, then, at least do it a couple days before and then break it up through the day. Prepare 20 minutes here, take a break, couple hours, come back, do another 20 minutes, come back, do another 20 minutes. But especially in first semester courses, your brain has not acclimated to extensive long-term attention. That makes sense? You guys all live in a TikTok world. Do you still use TikTok? Is it still a thing? Or is it gone? I don't know. They tell me Facebook is gone, that it's for old people now, so. I didn't know TikTok's another one of those things. That's the world you've lived in, and so you don't have to force attention for long periods of time until you get to college. And all of a sudden you got huge reading things, and you have to give sustained attention to information in order to process it, to get it in so you can recall it later for a test or whatever. So prepare early. The best scenario, do small chunks over multiple time, like over a 7-day period. Usually your instructors will tell you in the syllabus when you're doing this quiz. So don't wait for them to say it in class. Look at the syllabus and you can kind of gauge of, oh, chapter 2, we're gonna have a quiz, whether they say it or not. They usually tell you, but they might not tell you till the session before. Avoid cramming. Your brain taps out. You may think you are really working hard at studying, you study for 5 hours, but your brain isn't. You're sitting there looking at things. So the best way I can kind of give you a story about this, so I'll give you a story about mowing the lawn. We have a really large lawn. A few years back, my husband hurt his back. Hurt it pretty bad, he couldn't even get off the couch. I mean, it was pretty severe. And he's a bit of a yard Nazi. I don't know if that's the right word, but he's fanatical. I mean, I swear he measures every blade of grass out there, right? And you gotta mow it a certain way there, a certain way there, and you gotta do it. And I mean, we're mowing like 2-3 times, whatever. A long story short, he hurt his back, he's on the couch, he can't do the yard work, literally. So of course I'm elected, now I have to go do the yard work. And by the way, we have a push mower. Just saying, no rider. Push. Okay, I'm out there. He gives me my directions. Make sure you go this way. Make sure you stay in the lines. Follow the lines. I mean, I must have heard that 49 times. Follow the lines. Because he wanted it straight, these parallel lines. Okay. So I'm out there, and I mean, it's hotter than 80. It is like 98 degrees. It's just, I'm sweating like a sow. But I am dutifully, man. I'm out there pushing. I am following those lines, I'm getting out there, and I'm not quite halfway done. And we have a big yard. I mean, it takes a couple hours to do this, right? And all of a sudden, I see him on the back porch, back patio, kind of hobbling out there, doing one of these kind of things. So I stop him where I go over. And, he greets me with words of love. What the blankety blank blank do you think you're doing? Loving wife that I am mowing your blankety blank blank lawn, right? So he said 3 words to me that put everything in perspective. Blades not engaged. So does anybody know what that means on a mower? Do you know when I say it means, what have I been doing? I've been riding on top of the grass the whole time, right? When you go to mow, you have to lower the blade or engage the blade so that it cuts. Otherwise, you are just riding on top. You're blowing air around, but you're not cutting anything. So I had gone through all of that. I had followed the lines. I had perfect lines, but I hadn't cut a blade of grass, right? So I use this to kind of illustrate for when you're studying, right? When you're studying, if your brain is not engaged, you are going through the motion. right? You gotta have your brain engaged with it, otherwise you are just simply putting on a show for yourself, you're fooling yourself, maybe fooling others. But the proof, when it comes to test time, it won't be there because your brain was not engaged with that material. This is the other reason you don't cram. Your brain can only give sustained attention for so long. You can train it to do longer and longer and longer. But when you're first starting out, especially in the college world, you want to go shorter chunks to make sure your brain is engaged with the material and do it more often, okay? If you're doing 5 hours, you won't know, your brain went to lunch and didn't tell you is what goes on there. There are no symptoms. Here's a couple other things we're going to talk about with testing. Review often, that's multiple times, short amounts, right? Test time intentional. Research shows us if you actually schedule a time and you write it down, make an appointment, you're more likely to follow through. If you simply say, yeah, I'm going to study Thursdays at 4, it's too easy for your brain to blow that off. Okay. Oh, there was something else with testing I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay. So sleep is another one. This is very, very typical in the college world. Students are pretty sure they don't need to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. How many of you get 8 hours a night? Okay, good for you. Try as much as you can. Again, you think you don't need it, but what happens is your brain doesn't work at full capacity. And here's the thing, you don't know it. It's not like the brain says, hey, I'm not working right. No, you have a sense of being tired. But you think, well, I can think just fine. But your brain is not working at 100% capacity. So, especially when it comes to tests and stuff like that, make sure you have a good night's sleep prior. So your brain at least has a shot of firing on all pistons. The other thing that's not here that I want to talk to you about is dehydration. As much as possible, you want to stay hydrated. Hydrated means you know drinking enough water, right? Let's just take a poll. What's your favorite beverage that you like to drink? I'll tell you mine. Mine is coffee. I love coffee. I would drink 10 cups of coffee a day if I could. But I'm old. I can't do that anymore. Troy, what's your favorite beverage?
Water.
Straight water? Do you put anything in your water? Okay, because some people put flavors or other things in it. Okay, all right. Micah, what's your favorite beverage?
Water.
What? Does anybody have a beverage not water that's their favorite? Okay. Oh shoot, don't tell me. Do it. Oh, okay. Gatorade. Yep. Anthony? Oh, yes. My husband is a Pepsi fiend. SC, did you have one you wanted to share or no?
I see.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay. So here's the thing. You want to stay hydrated, and hydrated really means water. Okay. Now, some things are less worse than others. One of the horrible things are things with caffeine. Those are one of the worst things for you. Your Pepsi, my coffee, Gatorade, there are some types of Gatorades that have electrolytes, but I'm not sure which ones. So, it's a shot at being better, especially if like you're an athlete. I think there's certain kinds of Propel, maybe, I don't know. But here's the deal. You want to stay hydrated because your brain needs to be hydrated. The first symptom that you are not hydrated is that you're tired. So if you're tired, that's usually the first symptom of being dehydrated. By the time you get to the level of, oh, I'm kind of thirsty, you're way past that already, right? So stay hydrated. You should drink water even if you're not thirsty. You should stay hydrated. I forget what the amount, is there a health nut in here that knows the amount of water you're supposed to have every day? Go for it.
I'm supposed to have like up to about like 8 of these a day.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I would spend all my time in the bathroom at that point, but yeah. So hydrate and a good night's sleep are your best defense for having your brain working at full capacity for testing, okay? All these things that, you probably learned in elementary school and have ignored for most of your life, okay? The other thing is eat beforehand. Never go into a test on an empty stomach, okay? your body is telling you things, even if you're not hungry, you may not be aware of it, but it takes energy just to get up, walk, or whatever, and it's eating calories from the minute you're awake. So you don't want all that energy going into those things, you wanna save your brain's energy. And I forget how much it is, it's like 75% of your brain's energy goes to physical things. So you wanna make sure you have plenty of fuel.
And it's what you eat too.
Yes, so that brings us to our second thing, is don't be a sugar rush. I mean, my favorite thing in the morning is either a bagel or a donut. I mean, it's just not a morning without those in my world, right? Two terrible things for you to do before a test. You wanna have something to eat that's high protein. Why? Because protein will sustain you and last for longer energy. If you do sugar, it'll give you a good energy boost, but then with anything, it tanks and crashes. So you can be, 30 minutes into the test and all of a sudden your energy level is starting to ebb and flow. Carbohydrates are sugar, right? So that's why you would avoid carbs, right? Anything with a protein is usually better than a carb before a test, okay? And also hydrate. All right. How many of you feel you have test anxiety? Okay. Next question, how many of you have ever been diagnosed officially that you have test anxiety? Okay. So that is different from, I feel I have test anxiety, okay? Most of us get test anxiety. Now, I'm not talking about that one, okay? Because you've been diagnosed, there are some other things that you do. But if you feel you have test anxiety, one of the biggest factors for anxiety, does anybody know one of the biggest factors that contributes to anxiety of any kind? Yeah.
Stress.
Yes, FYI, what is stress caused from? I mean, like, what is one of those factors in stress that's causing the anxiety, do you know? Okay. Yeah,
I don't know, but I was always told that your brain is your biggest trickster.
it is.
That like, if your brain can make you overthink things most of the time, then
Okay.
mostly what it is.
I mean, it's not untrue.
Yes,
But one of the things for anxiety is, fear of the unknown. One of the greatest things that induces anxiety is the unknown. You don't know what's gonna happen, right? You don't know this is, so if you think about stress, when you have stress, it's because what? You usually don't know how to solve a problem. You don't know, like, maybe you don't have enough money, and you don't know where you're gonna get the money, that kind of a thing, right? Make sense? So one of the best ways to reduce test anxiety is to over prepare and know your information. You get test anxiety because you don't know how you're gonna do. You don't know if you're gonna answer. One way to address that is to over prepare so you do know. A lot of people don't prepare, don't understand the material, don't do it, and then have really, really high test anxiety. They go hand in hand. The best way to reduce your anxiety is to over prepare. Curious, how much time do you think you need to prepare for a test? Let's just say, let's pick the easy one, let's pick a test in my class. We won't choose math or science or any of that. Let's say you got a test on chapter 1 coming up. About how much time should you dedicate to prepare? Go for it, do it. You had a hand, I thought maybe you had something you want to share.
30 minutes. 1 hour.
Okay, for chapter 1, right? Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
I said a week ahead.
Well, a week, but I want an amount of time. So let's say he's gonna do a week ahead. He's saying anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll pretend that you internalize what I said and you're gonna go 15 minutes for 4 days. That gets you your hour. Whatever time you think you need to prepare, triple it. Yeah. So if you are gonna have a test on chapter 1, not 1 hour, but probably 3 hours of preparing, by the way, just preparing, of getting it in so that you know it and you know the information and you'll be able to recall it. Can you pass a test with less than that? Maybe, probably. Depends on what your goal is, where you wanna score, that kind of a thing. Okay? Think about that for all your classes. How many classes are you taking, Dwight? 1, 2, 3, 5, 10?
I'm like 5.
5 classes, that's, most people take about 5, that's 15 credits. So we'll just take that example, you have 5 classes. Do you think you'll have a test in all 5 classes on the same week?
It depends.
Depends, but it could be, could easily be, right? So if you go 3 times 5, that's 15 hours a week you should be putting toward schoolwork, studying, prepping, if they're all on the same week. Make sense? Again, that's a rule of thumb. You'll have some that may be less than that. But you're also gonna have some that you may need more than that. If you have a midterm exam, that's probably a longer test, right? So you wanna put more prep time, more time into it. Okay. All right. I want you to finish the rest of this on your own. We're just talking about some different things, but I want you to read this if you haven't already done it. I think I talked about most of these. Okay. Let's go back to my Moodle page. And we're going to talk about our assignments. Make sure you understand what you have to do. Because I know you can't wait. Right? You're ready. Ready. Oh. You're going to hear me say this quite a bit, but one more thing I want to talk to you about is when you study, and I'm going to go with D-White. D-White, we're just going to go with your 1 hour. We're going to say 1 hour for chapter 1. Okay, that's how much study time. Can you tell me what you would do during study time? Like, how would you study?
No, just go over it.
Okay, when you say go over it, what are you doing? Are you reading?
Yeah, reading.
Okay, maybe reading or rereading? Okay, anything else?
Okay, so would you be able to look at like a review, like a question review?
So it depends on the instructor. Some instructors will allow you to look at a review, right? Some instructors will say you gotta make your own review, right? I can tell you from my class, when we have a test, I don't provide you with anything. I'll just say there's a test on chapter 1 or whatever it is. So what would you do, just read and reread? Is that what you would do as your study?
Yeah, and then I would just like write it down if I didn't know it, and then like on the day of, I would just go over it.
Okay. So I really love that answer because it's what I call the great American myth of studying. Okay. Does anybody know why you read? Like if I assign you to read chapter 1, why do I assign you to read chapter 1? I mean, what's the purpose behind that? What's the purpose of reading anything? Yeah, oh yeah, well, not answer, but to get information maybe, right? So you read something to obtain information. That's exactly right. Whether it be a chapter in a textbook. So when you're reading something, you're reading to understand it, right? You're reading to understand. Studying begins after you understand. So if you're reading, you're not studying. Reading, you're trying to comprehend, you're trying to understand, trying to know what it is. Studying is the active engagement with that information. So if I assign you, hey, you got a test on chapter 1, you should certainly read the chapter because you need to know the information, right? You have to understand that information. Once you understand it though, now the active part of, okay, what am I going to do to study that information so I can recall it back? So studying usually should always have an active component. If you are reading or rereading, that's not studying. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. You definitely need to read, you need to reread to make sure you understand. But don't fool yourself that that's studying. It's the great American myth, I call it. So when you're studying, you need to actively do something. So whatever it is, whether it's writing a note down, writing notes, actively writing information to process, to study, to remember it, quizzing with someone else, having someone give you questions, you try to give it back. creating a study guide, like Dwight was referring to, a review sheet, creating your own review sheet, writing information. That is all actively engaging with the material, that is helping you study, that is study stuff, okay? So think about that when you are studying, if you are reading, don't count that towards your study time. Because that's something separate, okay? All right, let's look at module 2. I'm gonna stop lecture at this point, and we're just gonna talk about the things I want you to do in module 2, how to do them. Give me a second. And